Loopy Girl asks what? What did she ask?
We're on now because I'm going to get James to get the background.
Okay. You can.
you guys hear me?
Got you, big guy.
I look okay? Picture all right?
Sublime.
Where are you?
I'm in the same virtual world that you're in. We're all in this box together.
You're not in Cleveland?
No, sir. I'm with you, buddy, right here in CBus.
All right.
All right, let's do it. It's almost draft time, but we have our great virtual preview show tonight here, 97.1 The Fan, our partners at 10 TV, and of course, we are brought to you by Pepsi Zero, zero sugar done right. I'm playing Roger Goodell tonight, Dami, and that's because I got my jar of M&Ms, baby. We start with a jacket, we go to the shirt. By 9 o'clock, we'll all be in sweats. Want to welcome in Dave Holmes as well, live in Cleveland. He's got the best background going. Dave, good to see you, buddy.
How's it going? Yeah, it's a cold, ugly, rainy night on the lake, but a lot of people partying. Still a good time here on the shores of Lake Erie.
All right, great. So I'm Anthony Rothman. You see Dom Taveri there. Dave Holmes, of course, up in Cleveland, both from 10 TV. Guys, thank you very much for being part of the big night, our virtual draft party. So, Dave, why don't we start with you? I think what most people want to know is maybe set the scene. Is this draft, Dave, do you think, going to look and feel like drafts of previous years, other than the one last year, which had to be completely virtual? What will the fans expect to see when they watch tonight?
I'll say this, it's more natural than last year, no doubt. I mean, there are thousands of people here. I mean, it's not out of control. A lot of people wearing masks, still doing the social distance stuff, but it's definitely more of a party atmosphere than I thought it'd be. Right now, we're inside First Energy Stadium. We were at the stage earlier. We're not allowed to show that right now because of broadcast restrictions, but there was a couple thousand people in here doing the fan experience stuff, out in the streets, live band music. So it's not Nashville a couple years ago. It's not that level of party, but it's much better than last year.
And normally they have to wait, Dave. Tonight, I mean, normally they don't have to wait. Tonight they got to wait till pick 26. And they almost feel very comfortable, I would say, with their team right now. You get a feeling on who you think the fans want the Browns to take.
Yeah, I've actually asked a lot of fans up here if they have a preference, and they honestly don't. Everyone says defense. I think that's where they go. I think they'll go defensive back, cornerback, more specifically, or linebacker. I know a lot of times the analytic teams don't value linebacker as much, but it's certainly a need for the Browns. So I don't think whoever the Browns take tonight is going to get a big, sexy reaction from Cleveland. But that's the good thing about picking 26. You don't need much. You can fill your need and not worry about trying to get a franchise player.
No doubt. Guys, the big story, of course, is Justin Fields and where he might go. Dom, you've covered this team the last couple of years with Justin Fields. You know what he's made of and what makes him tick. What have you thought about the speculation and where he might go, and how do you feel about it?
First of all, I think it's all a bunch of funk, Anthony. I mean, all you have to do is look at what this kid did on the field. He lost 2 games in his career at Ohio State. He showed such great toughness last year in that national championship run where he took the big hit and still found a way to come back and play in a national title game. I think it's, someone sent me a thing. They said, I guess HIPAA doesn't exist with a guy like Justin Fields. The fact that someone released the fact that he has epilepsy, that's a complete joke. And, for someone to question this kid's work ethic and that he doesn't get it done in the classroom. We saw what Ryan Day said, came to his defense. Everything I have seen being around this kid, everything that I've heard from everyone that's around him, that this kid works so hard. He's the reason, one of the huge reasons they even played football a year ago. And I don't know why someone would do this, except, I guess all is fair when it comes to the draft. And I think there's some teams maybe that like him and are trying to put doubt and trying to see if they can get him to drop. But it's very unfair to that kid. And he never missed a play at Ohio State. And, it's one thing to just make stuff up that he's not a hard worker and all that. But when you bring up someone's health and medical condition, I think that's a complete joke and completely out of line. That's what I think.
Well, you would think that the smart people in the NFL will be able to see through the smoke screen, Dave, right, on Justin Fields. It doesn't mean that if he goes, 8 or 9 or 15, that suddenly he's nothing. Somebody has to get picked first and second and third tonight. Your feeling on Shanahan coming in, being a part of that second pro day, did it matter at all, Dave, as far as Justin Fields? The speculation was rampant even before the epilepsy thing came out, that he was always going to be maybe a free floater anywhere from 3 to 15. What did you think that second pro day accomplished, if anything?
Yeah, I don't think he's going 3. I just don't. San Francisco has been one of the most transparent, candid teams. I mean, you look at Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, whatever the Niners have leaked has happened the last 5 or 6 years. They're a very straightforward team. So I don't think they're going Fields at 3. I think Fields settles in that 7 to 11 range. I don't see the Panthers able to pass on him at 8. I don't think Sam Darnold's the answer in Carolina. I could see the Patriots trying to move up. There's a report today saying that the Patriots' interest in Fields is all a smokescreen. I say maybe the report about the smokescreen might be the smokescreen. I think the Patriots are smart enough to take a gamble on him, or maybe the Broncos, too, are sitting in that zone, too. Even reports now that New Orleans might want to move up in the top 10. Obviously, with Drew Brees gone, they need a quarterback as well. So I think he settles in that 7 to 11 range, but I don't think he's going 3.
Yeah, I'm going to believe the history and with the San Francisco 49ers. It seems like whenever they're linked to a guy, that's who they eventually take. It's happened like the last 4 years, and they have been linked to Mac Jones, and whether they feel they're ready-made and he can fit right into Shanahan's system, which is run heavy. They've got some weapons. But, Dom, the situation with Justin Fields, you have a feeling, like a prediction on what team would select him and where he may go?
You know, I would love to see him go to the Patriots, and I see the same thing, Dave. I think he would be going to a winning program. I want to see the kid get with a decent program that he has a chance to win. I think he's got all the tools in the world, and I don't know. I'm a big Bill Belichick fan. I know he and Urban were very close prior to Urban getting into the NFL. Now it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works out. But I'm sure Bill Belichick has done his homework on Justin Fields, and it would not surprise me if the Pats made a move to get him.
Yeah, they may be calling one of those teams like Dave mentioned right there that may be willing to trade out. Now, do they have to go all the way up to 7? Maybe. We'll see. I mean, if you want the guy, you're going to make the move. You guys saw the news earlier with Aaron Rodgers maybe trying to bully his way out of Green Bay on draft night. We don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Green Bay is going to take a knee on one of the greatest quarterbacks in history of the game and just say, yeah, you don't want to be here, we'll send you away. But there may be something to the Garoppolo situation. If the Patriots do value a guy they developed in Jimmy Garoppolo and getting him back, then the Patriots may have their combo with Garoppolo and Cam Newton. So that would maybe prevent them from going to get Justin Fields. I know Dave mentioned New Orleans may be thinking about coming all the way up to get him. And then I thought your interesting one day was Carolina on whether or not, they trade for Darnold. They've got Christian McCaffrey. They got Robbie Anderson. They've got some weapons, whether they'd want to give Darnold a chance to succeed or bring in competition for him. So your gut tells you where, Dave, on Justin Fields.
Yeah, I like Carolina. DJ Moore as well. They have good receivers on the outside. They lost Curtis Samuel to the Washington football team, but good receivers on the outside. Christian McCaffrey. I think that team's close, and they haven't had a quarterback outside of Cam Newton really in franchise history. So I think Carolina would be a good landing spot with solid receivers, a good running game that could take some heat off of them. I think if Carolina stays put and no one jumps in front of them, I think he goes 8 to Carolina.
All right, Dom, let's go to the next big topic, which is protecting Joe Burrow or giving him a weapon. Pick 5. I don't think they can screw this up, right? Either Kyle Pitts will be there or Jamar Chase will be there or Penei Sewell will be there. What should they do? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, I think there's some big-time linemen out there they might be able to get. And I'm old school, man. I think you build an offensive line around your franchise quarterback. And I'm praying that I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, and I'm hoping he's going to bounce back. But, Anthony, that was a horrible injury he suffered last year. That was not your typical little tear. That was a major injury. I hope he bounces back. We're hearing positive things. You got to protect your franchise quarterback. With that said, A.J. Green's gone. You got to get him some weapons. And who better than Chase, who they have a relationship with? I mean, at LSU his last year, Joe won the Heisman throwing to this kid. They went on to win the national title. I think if that kid's available, they take him. But I also think the priority is to get another lineman in there. I love that Sewell kid. I'm not a big fan of the Oregon football program in general. I don't think they're physical, to be honest with you. But I think that guy, from what I've seen of that guy, is the real deal. But I'll also tell you, there's a couple Buckeyes coming out that I would love to see in Cincinnati, either Wyatt Davis or Josh Myers. I'd love to see either one of those. Those two guys are going to be great NFL pros. I'd love to see the Bengals maybe go that direction too.
Yeah, you could almost make the case that if Joe Burrow never got injured, that they would definitely take Jamar Chase tonight. But it almost feels like the psychological effect of that injury that you talked about, the fact that that scar is long and it's not going anywhere, and that may be something that Cincinnati steers their way towards the lineman. But I agree with you. You just have to find out whether it's Jamar Chase. Can you find another Jamar Chase in this draft? I don't know. Can you find another Penei Sewell in this draft? Maybe. It always seems to go opposite, right? That the left tackles are the hard ones to find. Chris Collinsworth, Dave, said that Penei Sewell, he sees him as a future Hall of Famer. So are they both going to be Hall of Famers one day, Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell? Who are the Bengals taking, Dave?
They're taking Jamar Chase, and it makes all the sense in the world to me. I mean, Joe Burrow's guy from LSU. Most quarterbacks say, give me the lineman, except if it's the guy that you won a national championship with. So I think they go with Jamar Chase. I agree with Don that I think you can take a lineman in round 2. They have other high picks. Wyatt Davis should be there for sure. They've shown a tendency to draft Buckeye linemen in the past. So I think Jamar Chase is the pick, even though you want to protect Joe Burrow. And if I look at the next 5 years of that offense with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, there are not enough defensive backs in the AFC North to cover that. So I'm okay with the Bengals going receiver at 5.
Yeah, as long as he's got time to throw, right? To throw it to those weapons, as long as he can stay upright. Dave Holmes up in Cleveland, Dom Taberry with us as well. Guys, we will come back to you at the top of the hour. Thanks for setting the table for us.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right, we move along, and the former Buckeye linebacker and Big Ten Network's Joshua Perry is front and center. JP, good to have you.
Oh, I'm glad to be on here. How's it going?
Doing well, my friend, doing well. And we'll await my co-host, Matty Ice Hayes, as well. You heard a little bit of that conversation, but why don't we start with Justin Fields here? I think we're all certainly biased and understandably so, but your feeling on where Justin Fields would want to go. San Francisco, we feel he'd want to go there. If it's not San Fran and he can hand pick it, JP, where would he want to go?
That's a tough question. First off, I'll start by saying I haven't laid eyes on you in about a year, and now I see you wearing a suit jacket, which I've never seen you wear before. So this is fantastic. That's a tough question. Where would he want to go? Because you're right. I think San Francisco is the spot. You feel like the offense makes a lot of sense for what he want to do. The weapons are there for him to kind of develop and to flourish and grow. You feel like if Carolina wants to make a little bit of a move there, it makes some sense. Denver is an opportunity that's a little bit unique, but we've talked about this Cam Newton, big brother. Can he kind of coach you, mentor you, having an old vet in the room type of situation? And I think that's where it becomes a little bit intriguing. So there are probably a number of spots he'd like to go. The one that he really wants to go to is probably the one that's not going to take him.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those situations where you look at Justin Fields and every one of these guys, they've tried to pick apart, but he's gotten the worst of it. And I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe he's the guy that has the least mystery around him, and there's more tape and more this and more that, where the other guys didn't play great competition. They all looked good. They've gone to mechanics. I saw today Dan Orlovsky did a whole mechanics thing and felt that Justin's delivery is a little longer than the others from a mechanics standpoint. But my goodness, he has been picked and prodded and poked, and I can't imagine that some team is going to pass on him in the top 10. And there's my boy, Matty Ice Hayes, Rothman and Ice, ready to go. What's up? Good to see you, buddy.
Clean. First of all, you're looking clean. You're looking clean.
I wanted to go full Raj in about an hour. The jacket comes off. Well, I'll be in sweats by 9. You know that. And I brought my Raj M&Ms as well.
Say the jar of M&Ms. There you go.
There you go.
That's key.
I see what you did. See, you brought the M&Ms.
I brought the WWE Championship belt with me tonight because championships are built through the draft. So I figured I'd get in the mood by busting out my championship belt for you, AR and JP.
Look at this.
All
guy.
right. You guys have heard all the noise about Aaron Rodgers wanting to bully his way out of Green Bay now. I don't think anything's going to happen tonight. You and I talked about the rumor earlier today on our show. Maddie, you think it has any impact, the Rodgers news, on anything tonight?
Man, I'm sure GMs, owners, everybody in charge of personnel has been all over the phones to try to get this guy. Couldn't believe when this news came out from Schefter that he's disgruntled, he's digging in, and it's unbelievable. Does he get traded tonight? I don't think he gets traded tonight. Eventually, I do think it happens. I just think the relationship at this point, I don't know how you fix it based off of last year. And we talked at length about that Jordan Love pick, man, and probably what that did to their relationship. And he probably viewed that as a bit of a slap in the face. Don't think it happens tonight. Eventually, I do think we get there based off of the information we're hearing and how dug in he is.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys feel that, because we'll go back to 5 now and get your opinion on Cincinnati, and we'll start with Joshua there. Certainly, I mentioned the psychological impact of that injury could lead them in one way. They've made kind of a Band-Aid approach to their offensive line here in the offseason. They didn't make the big splash in the O-line to really tip us off. But the Jamar Chase selection there, if he's available at 5, Joshua, what should they do? What do you think they will do?
Yeah, and me and Matty Ice just got done talking about this. This is a conundrum for me because when I look at wide receivers, and Jamar Chase is definitely different, but this is a deep wide receiver class. So you feel like you could go get somebody who would be valuable to your offense a little bit later on in the draft. When I look at offensive tackles, those guys, there's a huge difference between a first-round offensive tackle and a second or third-round offensive tackle. And when I say huge, like it's hard to explain. Some of those guys are just ready to go. They're built differently when they're first-round talents at tackle. But Zach Taylor's mentioned, and you said it, they've kind of put a little bit of a Band-Aid up there. He feels like he's pretty confident in what they have. And so if that's the case, you go ahead and you get Jamar Chase. Here's a guy who played with Joe Burrow at LSU. They've got a connection already. They're a team that loves to go in 11 personnel, so it makes sense to add the extra weapon. And now you've got some guys on that offense that are going to be really hard to cover, and a quarterback that can create on his own anyway. So it's intriguing because I think if you're not confident in your offensive line, the right thing to do is to go for the tackle, go for Sewell. But if you feel like you've got enough guys that you can keep Burrow healthy, then go ahead and get the weapon and then address the line next year.
After Burrow suffered that injury, Matty, if he had the pick tonight, is it just the confidence that he has in himself and wanting the weapon? Or is he even thinking, I was the one that got sacked 30-plus times in 10 games. I'm the one who had my pocket blown to bits, and there goes my knee. Who would he want if they let him pick it?
The more I think about that question, I think it's a great question. I think he can't get 2019 out of his mind. He and Chase and Jefferson and company, those guys were unreal when they won the national championship and took it all the way. And I think he probably views that as maybe they're a piece away from really making things interesting in the AFC North with Jamar Chase, because I think they've got 2 solid weapons there already with Higgins and Boyd, and obviously Joe Mixon coming back. So I think JP laid it out really well. I'd be in the offensive line camp. Penei Sewell, if he's there, I'd take it and try to address wide receiver later, because I think they've got a pretty good kind of building block, if you will, with their offense already. So I think the pick is going to be Chase. I would roll with Sewell and protect Joey B and get the highest level tackle that you can, and then build off of that. And then maybe later in the draft or next year's draft, go out and really swing big at playmakers.
Before I cut you guys loose, let's take our final couple minutes and talk about the Brownies picking 26. We're pretty sure they're going to go defense unless there's a speedy receiver that just falls into their lap that they can't not take. Joshua, let me get your opinion on this. With the way Joe Woods applies that defense, the 3 corners, the 3 safeties, been a lot of talk about the 4-2-5. There's been a lot of talk about 4-1-6. Give me what the Browns defense is right now, in your opinion, and why it won't lean them towards taking a linebacker at 26.
Well, me and Maddie just talked about this one. My guy from Notre Dame, and I'm not going to say his name because I'll butcher it, but I feel like he is a pick that could make sense if you feel like you want to be a little bit more of a nickel or dime, which is the 6 DBs out there type of team, because he's a guy who is really a strong safety. Like, he's a box safety, but he's a linebacker at the same time. And so he gives you that flexibility where if you want to have a little bit of a bigger body out there, you can go ahead and put that guy on the field. But Matty Ice also brought up, which was a great point, that they've had some struggles in the secondary just in terms of health. And so if you feel like health is an issue, you've got some guys who will be there later on. Newsome from Northwestern's a guy that we watched have some success against Ohio State. He's a really, really good player. So if you feel like that's the pick you want to take, you go ahead and make it. I personally prefer the linebacker just because he gives you a little bit more flexibility in this new game that we're playing.
So, Matty, possibly we've heard Jamin Davis's name out of Kentucky. I even want, we like that Washington University edge rusher, Joe Tryon, who a lot of people think could be the pick there. Bateman might fit well. You and I have talked about Elijah Moore. Are they going edge rusher or receiver or corner?
To me, I think based off what you said and what JP talked about with how Joe Woods wants to throw out his offense and throw out a ton of DBs, I think it makes sense to invest in a cornerback. And the name I'm interested in is what happens if Caleb Farley falls to them. If Caleb Farley is there, how do they feel about the medicals? Because we know the back stuff was a problem, but a lot of people were high on Caleb Farley at the cornerback position. And what JP touched on with Denzel Ward being nicked up, probably too much than they want. Obviously, Greedy Williams, we don't know what that's going to look like on a consistent basis. I wouldn't be mad at a corner. I think that does make sense. But if they want to, lock up more of that front seven and go with a Zaven Collins or a Gregory Rousseau or any of those names that can provide a little bit punch in the front seven, I'm all in on that. Browns are in a great spot, man. This is rare territory for them to be picking this late and to have this roster built. They got to be feeling good.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Matty, wear that belt proudly. JP, always good to see you, man. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the draft.
See you
later.
All right, let's bring in my colleagues, the boys, Morning Juice, Brandon Beam, Tim Hall from the Buckeye Show, Jonathan T-Bone Smith, Common Man and T-Bone. The boys are going to take you through the Buckeye picks, and I'm sure they'll talk about all the speculation around Fields. We'll let Dick Butkus to my left take over. Juice it up, Beamer.
Yeah, AR, it's good to see you. I mean, you look like Roger Goodell tonight with that nice little suit jacket you got going on. So, I mean,
and the M&Ms, kid. And the M&Ms.
You are the commish tonight, so I'm glad that you're looking the part. Timmy Bone, good to see you, boys. What's happening here? AR, I saw you in a Zoom meeting yesterday as well as he gets out of here. Bone, talked to you on the podcast this morning. Look at you, Timmy. Did you shave today? That is pretty amazing. What's happening, boys? Happy draft day.
I missed the dress code memo because, Beamer and I, we're dressed like the way I thought we'd be all dressed.
So we were supposed to go to Italy last March.
All this stuff. This is amazing.
March 2020.
And we're hearing James' travel plans right there as well. Man, Italy must be nice.
Must be nice.
So yeah, it's good to see you guys. I wore the sweater because I thought, coming on after Joshua Perry. I mean, have you seen the way that this guy dresses when he does his stuff on Big Ten Network? I mean, he's probably up there in the top 10 now for dudes that go on, sports television these days.
I don't even think he's in the top 10 for sports television, guys. I think he's top 5 well-dressed men in the entire world. AR not fine in the top 25, but JP always holding it down, top 5 guy.
Yeah, you can throw him up there. But boys, what are you thinking? I mean, this is the night for – that's great. Beamer has cracked a cold one already. You're living your best life post-Mo Brew. It's Justin Fields' night. I think he's the only Buckeye that gets drafted. It's strange in that regard because we've been living in this cycle where we're used to seeing 2, 3, 4 Buckeyes talked about or going in the first round of the draft. And here we get to 2021, and we can, turn the clocks back a year and a half, and these mock drafts were filled with guys. You had Wyatt Davis, Josh Myers, Shaun Wade obviously was up here. Maybe you had a receiver and Chris Olave, who you thought was going to be in this draft, would be a high first-round pick. But no, it seems to be just the one guy. I think that's how it's going to play out. And day 2 and 3, you're really going to find the value and versatility with all those other Buckeyes. But I don't know, T-Bone, what do you think about it?
I tend to think that you're right. I mean, it's going to be day 2 and 3 for most of the Buckeye players that would be getting drafted. The Justin Fields thing, in a weird way, I think the Aaron Rodgers news today, it kind of shades this whole picture tonight, because a lot of the teams that are talking about, well, maybe we go after Justin Fields. I mean, that was before Aaron Rodgers is available. And we don't know what to make of all that. I mean, we talked about it pretty much nonstop all afternoon today. Think about the possibilities here. If San Francisco were to jump in on that, I mean, if that becomes where he goes, well, suddenly the whole San Francisco thing changes quite a bit. Now you're looking at Mac Jones not getting drafted there, probably, or Trey Lance. Who knows? They've been kind of cagey with what they're doing. So that, I think, changes the whole quarterback market. Obviously, if Aaron Rodgers is available, I kind of think, I know I was listening to the guys just talk there. I kind of think something happens with that tonight. I mean, I'm not saying it's like definite that it's happening, but there's too much smoke here for this not to be happening. And this is the night where you make your plans at quarterback. This is the night where you finalize where is our direction for 2021. And if Aaron Rodgers is dangling out there as a piece, this is the night to make that move. Picks are available after tonight and tomorrow. You know, that all goes away. So I think that has a lot to do with where Justin Fields ends up, because it'll depend on who has Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. That'll then take everything else and move it around.
Beamer, I know you got to be loving all that Aaron Rodgers noise.
Yeah, you hate to see it, boys. You hate
seems like
to
a very
see it.
Washington football team trade type of thing to do with Dan Snyder, and how his eyes get big. Oh, sole ownership of the team right now. Aaron Rodgers is there. He's 37 years old. Let's go get him. Let's see if Albert Haynesworth wants to come on board again as well. Let's just go nuts at it and trade all the picks. But you had to love that talk, Beam.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I was following along on Twitter this afternoon. And just for everybody who's out there that's watching and think this is kind of like blown out of proportion, guys like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and Jay Glazer and those guys don't get a hold of a situation like that without knowing exactly what's going on. So when you hear not one, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subsequently go out there and say that, you know there's got to be smoke with fire. And to your point, Timmy, our old guy, Beanie Wells, he posted a tweet, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I don't think there's any way that this happens. But he said, if you were Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars, would you give up the number 1 pick in this year's draft to go and get Aaron Rodgers? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, pretty fascinating. No, probably not. Because if all goes according to plan, Trevor Lawrence is going to be your guy for 20 years. But that's how much it's put everybody into a spin cycle today. Because you're like, okay, Denver at 9, what are they going to do? Like, they could trade for him. San Francisco apparently has attempted to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Carolina, what do they do now? So you're right, Bone. I think everybody, you know, who was kind of in that Justin Fields sweepstakes now after number 5, and where is he going to go, or the team's going to trade up, I think they find themselves in the Aaron Rodgers running, which could throw this entire draft in an entire spin cycle. But to the other Buckeyes, we've heard a lot of great things about Pete Werner possibly tonight being taken in the first round. I hope that for Pete, he has had an unbelievable climb from 2018, where that linebacking core was, to where it was over the past couple of years. The adjustments that they've made on the fly, and now Washington coming in. I don't see it tonight personally for Pete. I'm cheering for him. I hope it happens tonight. But I think you're going to see a lot of Buckeyes tomorrow in rounds number 2 and 3. I think Fields is the only guy going tonight.
Yeah, I look at it, boys, and there's 14 Buckeyes that you would want to give some recognition to. Either they're going to get drafted. I would say, I haven't looked at a betting line for this, for what an over-under would be on Buckeyes in the draft, but it would seemingly be in that 9.5 to 10.5 range. Fields, Baron Browning, Wyatt Davis, Sean Wade, Pete Werner, Josh Myers, Trey Sherman, who's a really intriguing guy, Tommy Togiai, who could have stayed another year and been a wildly high pick this year, Justin Hilliard, my guy right there, Jonathan Cooper, Luke Farrell. That might be the end of who gets drafted at 11. I think Luke Farrell is a steal late in this draft with what he can do as a blocking tight end, and he's more mobile than you give him credit for, and he can catch passes. Then there's Tuff Borland, Drew Chrisman, who I think is a starting punter in this league within 2 years and making some money, getting a second contract. Like Cam Johnston, I think, just scored like an $8 million deal to go to
Must
the
be
Texans.
nice.
Like, go get it, man. Pro kick Australia. and then Blake Haubeil. And those are the 14 guys you're really looking at.
Yeah.
I'll be fascinated to see kind of where Tommy Togiai goes, right? I think he can be a blockbuster. I mean, 3 technique, 1 technique, whatever they want to kind of play him at the next level. I think he's going to be fantastic. Justin Hilliard, there's not a guy which you can root for more in this draft just from what he's been through at Ohio State. But all these guys deserve their time in the spotlight. And it should be a fun night, boys. I know it's only 32 picks tonight, but then you pair that with tomorrow, rounds 2 and 3. But Bone, I do hope by the end of tonight that you were correct, that Aaron Rodgers is out of his way from Green Bay.
I think it's happening. I think
Rothman can attest to as well, because he's got to be thrilled about
all
that.
these teams are going to make their plans, and then they're just going to say like, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Well, we just drafted a quarterback. Maybe we trade for." Like, no way. You got your whole future ahead of you, and the MVP of the league is just sitting there. Yeah,
it's the night to move, right? I got that chip. This is the night.
They were that close last night. No way. No way something doesn't happen tonight.
All right, guys. Well done. Great rundown of the Buckeyes. Enjoy the draft, my friends, and we'll all be together soon, not virtually. Enjoy the night. All right. I see my man down in the corner there, the former 3-time All-American at Ohio State, Butkus Award winner, James Laurinaitis. And look who we have right next to me. I'm the man in the middle, the guy who's been undefeated in the Big Ten since he's taken over, Ryan Day. Coach, great to see you. Might be muted. We'll see. If it's on our end or your end, we'll identify. I think got him a little muted here. Hang on, Coach. We'll test.
Can you hear me?
Got you, James.
All right.
Just want to make sure we have Coach's audio as well. But good to see you, my friend. How you been?
Good to see you. You look sharp, man. I don't think I've ever seen you rocking this. Look at that, the sport coat.
The old TV days, man. Had to break it out. Needs a little altering, but thanks. But yeah, hey, listen. I told the guys, in an hour, I've been working out, feeling good, taking the old suits out of the closet, for nothing, just wear them around the house, No, it's good to see you, man. And I you know what? I asked Joshua Perry about this earlier, about trying to identify the Browns pick at 26. And I think you can speak to this, especially about the defense, because you see all these mock drafts. Browns might take a linebacker, this and that, because they need linebackers. But let me ask you this. The 4-2-5 and the 4-1-6 and these alignments that Joe Wood wants in Cleveland, would that lead us to believe that he doesn't need a backer at 26 or doesn't want one?
You would think so. It just depends on what kind of backer is still there. If it's a guy that you think will be a true, we say a 3-down guy, where he can be that one LB that you're like, hey, we have to keep him on the field. If you're a first-round backer, you have to be that. And I think even today, Anthony, the linebacker is so different. You have to be able to you can't just line up stacked and be like, oh, well, he plays great in the box. That doesn't work anymore. You have to be able to rush the passer exceptionally well. That's Micah Parsons, or cover. You have to be great in coverage and not be a liability there. So I think with the Browns, I'm looking corner. There's a corner slide. Do they want to do depth at pass rusher? Do they want Zaven Collins is a name that comes up a bunch, but that's a big cat. I mean, that's more of you're going to rush him. I don't see that's a guy that's really an off the ball idea for them. So then do they sit there, I love Newsome out of Northwestern. I think if he slides, now you see a lot of mock drafts where he goes. And so corner is one of those positions where once one goes, then another goes and another goes. But if you can find a way to get that kid out of Northwestern, who's obviously smart, tough, and tested extremely well, I think you sprint to the table if you're the Browns, if he's available there.
All right. Good insight. Coach Day, great to see you. Hope you and your family are well.
Absolutely. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear. Thank you. Thanks for your patience and adjusting there. It's been a world of virtuality, right, for a year or so. We got to go through this. I know you've answered this question ad nauseum, but I'll ask it this way. These NFL teams, they come in, you have these prized possessions for them, and it's like they want to buy this great car, and you've been the one that's been driving this car for 2 years, and they want to know all the quirks and features of this vehicle. How much do they ask you, like a Kyle Shanahan and the other coaches that come in, to give you every positive and negative you can? And then how much do you want to share with them about your guy as candid as possible? Because, of course, you're in his corner and you want him to translate as best as possible. What's that synergy like between you and the NFL coaches?
I think it's interesting. People do business different ways. People have their own styles. People go about their business differently. I think in the end, it comes back to relationships. And some guys do a great job of building relationships. Some guys really ask a lot of questions. I've been in there with offense coordinators, head coaches for hours at a time. And, guys that I've had great relationships with and other guys that maybe I just met for the first time. But I really respect the guys that work at it and grind at it, ask the questions, turn over all the stones, because you're right. It's just like in recruiting, the guy who knows the recruits the best are the coaches. If you want to know about a player, you just ask his coach, and you ask the coaches that play against them. You ask the guidance counselor, you ask the math teacher. They're the ones that are with this kid every single day. And it's the same thing with us. And I think Marati's got a huge hand in that. Certainly has a lot of respect, and the way he's handled so many different prospects, for a long, long time. I think they did some sort of valuation on the guys that he's developed over the years, and it came up to like over $1 billion or something crazy like that. So we haven't had the scouts in the building for a little while now because of COVID. So that threw a little bit of a different wrench in this thing this year. But yeah, to answer your question, some guys ask a lot of questions, some guys maybe not as much. And so interested to see how each team does their business.
And it's had to have driven you insane about the roller coaster of speculation about Justin Fields. You've probably gone through a lot of emotions. Maybe you're mad, angry. You've certainly been in his corner, which we expected you to be. Why don't we get your official narrative, how you feel Justin Fields translates to the pro level, a place where you've been, a place where you've coached quarterbacks. How do you feel he will make the leap, and what will be the biggest challenges for him?
I've given it a lot of thought. When I was in the league as a quarterback coach, and I spent a lot of time with the prospects coming out, I spent a lot of time thinking about this very thing. And now that, we have some first round draft picks at Ohio State at quarterback, I've given a lot of thought. And I think one thing that's unique about football is that, unlike basketball, baseball, lacrosse, where you play hundreds upon thousands of games, in football, you don't play as many games. You practice, you work out, you throw, maybe you'll do some 7-on-7, but you don't play games with your pads on all the time. You just can't, because of the way the game's set up. So at the quarterback position, there's so much going on every play. There's just a lot that goes into playing quarterback. So when you look at the NFL and you see guys who are in their 30s and even 40s who are still doing it at a high level, what it shows you is the experience is one of the most valuable things that these quarterbacks can have. And that's one of the things that, when you go across the last 20 to 30 years, it's been a huge part of the game. I think that the next thing that is important is your athleticism. When you look at the trend of guys who have made it in the league in the last decade, very athletic, can get themselves out of trouble, can create, and can do some things in play action to get themselves out of the pocket. So I think when you look at Justin, while he doesn't have a ton of experience right now, he's going to have some experience quickly, and he learns quickly. And the reason I say why he's going to have experience is because he can handle adversity. He's competitively tough. When something doesn't go well, he's going to figure out a way to work through that, solve the problem, and then move on. And when you look at some of the quarterbacks who have made it in the NFL now, that's what you see. I mean, you look at Drew Brees, you look at Tom Brady, you look at some of these guys, they've been through ups and downs, but they've sustained, they solved the issues, and then they moved on. Very similar to what you saw Justin do this year. And that was big. When I saw that happen in the Clemson game after a couple of games that, he had to learn from, that was a huge moment for me, because I was, projecting him into the NFL, saying, okay, this is going to happen at some point on a Monday night. He's going to wake up the next morning feeling pretty bad about himself. He's going to pull himself off the canvas and have to make the adjustments and figure out what went wrong to move forward. So I think that's critical. But then when you look at his athleticism, I just think early on he's going to make a lot of plays. He's going to, just because of how athletic he is, he's going to solve problems fast. And when you combine the two of those things and you project that out with his competitive toughness and that everything he's ever set his mind to, he's done, my money would be on Justin Fields.
No doubt. James Laurinaitis, three-time All-American at Ohio State, Butkus Award winner. You are tasked you're going to be coaching against Ryan Day right now. How would you defend Justin Fields? How challenging would that be? I mean, you've seen all these quarterbacks. If you took the field as a linebacker against Justin Fields, what's your biggest concern?
Well, for me, Anthony, he's a guy that can do everything. And so Justin is a guy that can operate from the pocket. So the whole playbook is open. This isn't, back in the day where you'd play an athletic, I'm doing an air quotes, an athletic quarterback that you want to keep him in the pocket, make him play the position. Justin does that excellent. And so that's the hard thing, is that he's a guy that can go through all the progressions. And then what's funny is that we hear this criticism about him, Anthony, about, he takes sacks, right? He holds on to the ball too long. And it frustrates me because that's also what makes him special, is the fact that his ability to make something happen, to maneuver within the pocket, step up, flush out, make a nice throw downfield. Those are some of the things that make him unique, make him special, make him, in my opinion, a guy that is more valuable than a Mac Jones early in this draft. Is his ceiling is so high. And I'm sure Coach knows this and I'm sure it's frustrated him when you have a player that can create, and you might say, hey, get rid of the football a lot, but then, oh, no, don't do it. And then also, okay, good throw. Nice job. The defensive equivalent would be like we had a guy out like Aaron Donald, for instance, Anthony. When I played behind Aaron Donald, he would notoriously get double gapped. So that means if you're, playing a 3 technique, you're supposed to be in that B gap. If it's a zone your side, hold the B gap. I got the A, you hold the B. Aaron would not only get to my A gap, he'd get to the backside center, and I'd be ready to get up and go yell at him. But then you look up and it's a TFL -4. And you're like, the things that drive you nuts, sometimes the uncanny ability for them to make something brilliant out of it. That's Aaron Donald on defense. I think Justin, a lot of times, you send a blitzer at him, you think, get rid of the football, throw it. Nope. He ducks under a sack, goes, makes a big throw downfield, and now you're celebrating him. It's that unique talent, I think, that makes him different from some of the other guys.
Coach, I'm sure that you were very proud of the improvements he made this season. You talked about his toughness. He took that hit against Clemson. I think the first play you called back, when he gets on the field, he sprints right and throws a strike to the pylon for a touchdown. And your belief in him, you still had him going for the home run, even up 21 in that game. You had a lot of faith in him. Tell us about your evolution of coaching Justin Fields, maybe from the start and the challenges that he faced to the finished product as you send him now into the NFL.
I think when you look at his durability, first off, I thought James brought up some great points. Let me just quickly hit on that. I think he absolutely hit it right on the head because, while, he did take a few sacks, if you look at all the type of scramble plays that were made in his career, the amount of explosive plays he created, escaping the pocket, whether it was extending and throwing downfield or just with his feet, it was amazing. So, he takes a few sacks along the way that you live with those type of things, where if you have a quarterback who can, he's just going to throw it away every time. And so I think that's a really great point. But I think when you look at Justin, first off, he never missed a game. And the only 2 plays he really missed in his career. You guys got me there?
We got
the only 2 plays he missed in his career. One was a game against a team up north where he took a helmet right in his knee on his MCL. He sprains his MCL. He goes over to the sideline, puts on a knee brace, comes back in. The next play scrambles to his left. I think it was like a 35 to 40-yard touchdown pass thrown across his body, the back of the end zone to Garrett Wilson. It was one of the more magical plays I've been around. And as it was happening, I was thinking to myself, this is a tough son of a gun. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks would have just stayed on the sideline. They just wouldn't have made it back into that game. They put a brace on, he got right back in, and he throws that ball. Then you go into the Clemson game, and the shot he took was a nasty shot. And I won't share kind of what happened when I went over to the tent with him, but he wasn't going to be denied. The amount of work that he put in 365 days to get back to that game and then come back and play the way he did after taking that hit is unbelievable. I don't know many quarterbacks that would have come back and played. So, you know, a lot of things have been said about Justin Fields, but I'll tell you one thing right now: he is competitively tough, and you know, you can count on him. Like, that's the thing. I think at the end of the day, like, I knew he was going to be there when that ball was kicked off. You could count on Justin Fields to be there. He was going to make plays, and he was going to win because he's a winner.
Great leadership qualities. That's a great story. Before we cut you loose, Coach, we do have a social media question here on our virtual draft. This one from Sloopy Girl, of course, big Ryan Day fan. She says, her question: after coaching in the pros, what's the one big piece of advice you would give a rookie quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, the story of Tom Brady is the one that I share to even our quarterbacks now. It's kind of a famous story now about how he bought this very unique car when he got to New England. You know, whether it's over the years got embellished or not, I don't know, but I love the story. I don't know what color it was, but they say it was either pink or yellow or whatever it was. And the guys used to give him a hard time because every time they got to work, that car was sitting there in the parking lot. And when they got in their cars to go home, the car was still sitting there in the parking lot. And that was his way, apparently, of saying, I'm going to be the hardest worker in this building, and I'm going to demand the respect of the team. And I think as a young quarterback, that's what you have to do with your work ethic. That's the first way to demand the respect. You're the first guy there, the last guy to leave. And as over time, if you can build that respect of the locker room, then you can build something in terms of leadership. And you don't want to be the guy before you're the guy. You don't want to walk in like you're one of them, you know, but over time, when you get their respect, then you can start to become the leader that the quarterback needs to be.
Great stuff there. Sloopy Girl, thanks for your question. You will win a prize pack from Pepsi Zero Sugar done right. You'll get a grilling set, sunshade, backpacks, and all sorts of good stuff from Pepsi. Thanks for the question. Coach, I know we spent most of the time talking about Justin Fields, but you got a lot of your guys that are going to hear their name called over the next few days. We'll give you the last minute on those guys and what stands out to you, and wishing good luck to your former players.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony, and good to see you, James. Yeah, it's an exciting weekend for Ohio State, but this game's always been about the players, and this weekend is about the players and all the hard work that they put in to get to this weekend. And at the end of the day, this is about an opportunity. You know, where you get drafted really doesn't matter in the end. What matters is that you go to a place and what you do when you get there. And we talked to our team all about that. It's not about getting to the NFL; it's what you do when you get there. And what a great weekend. And even though it matters when you get there, what happens, it's still a mark on your timeline. You know, the day you got drafted by, you know, X organization, because there's just so much work that gets put into it. You know, just the time in the weight room and the practices and your family, and just a lot goes into it. And especially at a place like Ohio State, and the support that we get from Buckeye Nation means a lot. But there's a lot of expectations that comes with that. And when you come here and get recruited, you have a dream, and that dream is to get drafted and go to the NFL. And that's where this weekend, that's what this weekend's all about. So I'm very proud of our guys, and looking forward to see where they end up.
Well, certainly there's always a lot of pressure on you and a lot of expectation, the guy you had to follow. And all you've done is go undefeated against the Big Ten. So pretty solid, Coach. Great stuff tonight. Thanks for spending time in the virtual draft. I know our fans appreciate it. Buckeye Nation does as well. Good luck to you, and we'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
All right, guys. Go Bucks.
Ryan Day with us here on the virtual draft. James, you heard a lot about Justin Fields, a lot of the speculation going on, and it had to drive him insane. And you can kind of tell that now that we're at draft night, you know, the chips are going to fall where they may. Do you have a sense here on whether a team will come up and get him, or is he the kind of guy that maybe teams feel like could get to him? Like we've looked at, let's look at the desperate, hungry quarterback teams, right? I mean, Carolina trades for Darnold, but may not be the answer. We know what Denver just did, bringing in Bridgewater as kind of a veteran mentor to Drew Lock and maybe the next guy. How do you feel about him getting past those teams? And if he does, who takes him? Does New England have to come up a little bit to get him, or do they feel safe getting him at 15? And this is all prefaced on that he isn't going number 3 to San Francisco. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that orchestrated second pro day by Kyle Shanahan comes to fruition. What's your gut tell you?
Yeah, well, I feel like all 5 quarterbacks will go in the top 10. I just think that's the way this thing goes. Somebody will panic and think, hey, I can't sit back here and wait. Like, if you want a guy, you have to go up and get him. The hard thing is judging. It just takes one team. And do you have a coaching staff that can put Justin in the best situation? I mean, you've covered the game so long, Anthony, you know, this is about fit more than anything. How many quarterbacks can go somewhere and they don't have the right fit or the right coach to be patient with them or the right person to develop them? It's really tough on young players. We've seen it over and over. Number 1 overall pick, my buddy Sam Bradford. I mean, new coordinator every year, injuries. Next thing you know, a guy that before Andrew Luck, that was the guy that everyone was talking about. Sam Bradford's pro day, not one incompletion hit not one ball hit the ground. He's the best thing since Peyton Manning. Well, we went to a really bad roster and we had no talent around him. So what I want to see out of Justin, it's not really what number he goes. I want him to go to a scheme and to an offensive mindset that best suits him. And that's why I was so strong on San Francisco taking him, because when I think of a guy that wants to do play action, turn around, and zip the ball, that's Justin Fields. You want to do some bootlegs and get him out on the edge in the athleticism to throw it deep or take off and pick up an easy 8 yards and be in 2nd and 2. That's Justin. I don't want to see him go to the Bears. I get really nervous about the Broncos because of the fact of great skill all over, but what's the head coaching situation? I think their GM's set, but do you really want to have a situation where you're getting a new head coach? Because I'm not sure Vic is going to be there long term. So it's kind of a situation where can he have continuity and someone to develop them? And that's what I want most for him and really all the guys. I mean, it's not just quarterback. Quarterback's the one that gets highlighted, but it's every pro. A lot of it is there's a lot of responsibility on the player, but a lot of it is fit too and belief from the staff and the front office.
All right, my friend. Well done, man. Always good to see you.
Good seeing you, man.
Hope your family's great. I'll be seeing you again really soon. Take care,
sir.
buddy.
All right,
James Laurinaitis, Butkus Award winner, and every other trophy you can imagine in college football, 3-time All-American at Ohio State. The man who just popped into the occasion here on the virtual draft is the one and only Scotty Vegas. So this is when things really get fun, and we can do some fictional betting tonight, maybe some real betting on occasion. Good to see you, bud.
Hey, this is amazing, Anthony. Great job with Ryan Day and obviously James Laurinaitis. That was a lot of fun. That was some good stuff.
Yeah, it's just great to hear Ryan Day talk. He's going to talk glowingly about all his guys, but you can tell there's just an inherent feel. He played quarterback. He coached quarterbacks in the pros. I thought the interesting part is, how candid he almost wanted the NFL coaches. If you ask the questions, I'm going to be honest, but I want you to do your homework. I'm not going to just offer up these flaws and positive stuff. Like if you want to come in and really learn about my quarterback, then I'll give you the homework that I have. I thought it was really interesting. Scott, I think the big question everybody wants to know is, and I've seen this roller coaster of odds where Mac Jones was a big favorite to go number 3 to the 49ers. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, Fields pops in as the favorite, and now he's back to being a real dog. Where does it stand tonight? Only, 15 minutes or so before pick number 3 is made.
Well, it's funny because you and I were talking earlier today, and I was looking at the odds, and Mac Jones, obviously this draft gets started at pick number 3, obviously with the 49ers. And Mac Jones earlier today was a heavy favorite to go number 3. He was actually minus 200 on the betting board. And then you actually had Trey Lance at 2-1 and Justin Fields at 2-1. Well, that's flipped. Trey Lance now is the favorite to be the number 3 pick. I mean, how crazy is that? Now, Mac Jones is now a slight underdog at minus 150. But yeah, this is completely flipped. And it's funny because it's changed as you see more reports on Twitter. These odds keep changing. So, it's funny, this inside information that people have. You throw out a tweet, people believe that tweet, these odds move. It's incredible.
All right, bud, let's get some value, because I honestly don't think that Trey Lance, if he's the favorite now, I don't think there's enough value there, because I'd be afraid that Mac Jones is going to be the selection. And I don't want to bet on Mac Jones because there's no value there either. He's such, unless you think there is. But is there a value pick in the top 10 that you see?
So, I mean, here's the thing. To me, looking at this entire board, I think the interesting thing is going to be the Bengals at 5 and Jamar Chase. So the over-under on Chase is right at 6. And by the way, the under on Chase is the big favorite. So right now, the betting odds are saying that they think that the Bengals are going Chase instead of going with the help on the offensive line that we've been talking about all night. So I think that's interesting. I tend to think that there's a little bit of value saying that that Chase is going to go above pick 6 and the Bengals will go with the offensive line help. But, the thing that I'm looking at, Anthony, is I'm really interested in looking at the futures bets. So right now you've got the Chiefs and the Bucs are the Super Bowl favorites coming into the night. Is there a team that can help themselves enough tonight to really move those odds? We've talked about Aaron Rodgers, possibly wanting out of Green Bay, which would be absolutely crazy, right? Well, they're 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think the team to keep an eye on for me is going to be the Buffalo Bills. Okay, I think the Bills feel like they're maybe a piece away from competing with the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. So I could see them making a moving up to possibly get a elite running back. So to me, right now, I like the odds of the Bills at 12-1. I think there's sneaky value in that pick. I mean, what do you think looking at the futures odds?
Well, I love the fact that you brought that up because I kind of wonder whether some of that is baked in or not. I don't think it can be because it's too much of a mystery. And so clearly the big news was Aaron Rodgers, where if he were to get traded, let's say Aaron Rodgers, here's the interesting thing. Let's say that crazy scenario happened and they did give up number 3, San Francisco, to get Rodgers and a lot of other pieces. Well, then, who in the world do the Packers select at 3? Because they already have Jordan Love, or do they trade out of that? So I don't see that happening. But the big one would be is if Rodgers left. If Rodgers left, then you vault them right up. Then San Francisco becomes, certainly very close to Kansas City, and Tampa is a betting favorite. I find the problem with some of these is I'm looking for value. Like Jamar Chase in the top 5 picks being minus 300. I don't know if there's enough there. I'm looking for somebody who maybe, plus money somewhere in that top 10. There's nothing on Lawrence, obviously, nothing on Wilson. Justin Fields is, you said, plus 200 at pick 3. Is that right? 2-1?
Yeah. Which, that keeps going up as the day keeps going too. So I don't think there's value there. You know what? Looking at, you mentioned, we know that Trevor Lawrence is a lock at 1. The funny thing is he is minus 12,000 to be the number 1 pick tonight, which means you throw $100 on Trevor Lawrence, you are getting back 83 cents. 83 cents, not even $8. And by the way, Zach Wilson, we know he's going number 2. Well, the odds know he's going number 2 too. $100 get you $2 back. Which, by the way, you got $1 million. You can make a
exactly right. Free money is free money, right?
Right.
It's kind of interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I'm looking at a prop bet that I really like, that I think is going to be fun to follow tonight, it's total trades in the first round. And the over-under on the total trades, Anthony, is 4.5. I think you and I, as fans, obviously people want to root for trades. I think the casual fan is like, lots of trades first round, lots of trades. And so I think that's kind of moved that number up. 4.5 to me is probably too high to go for number of trades. So I would probably go under. Even though it's more fun to root for the over in the trades, I'd probably go under.
I'm with you because if I can win that bet with 4 trades in the first round, I only lose it on 5. You could see potentially someone like coming up in the top 10, maybe 2 teams. Maybe you get the Saints or maybe you get the Patriots. Maybe there's some movement at the back end with a team coming from the second round into the bottom part of the first. But yeah, if you're telling me we could have 4 first-round trades and the under still cashes, I'd be all about that.
Exactly. And I know a lot of people are obviously Browns fans and Steelers fans watching this. some of the odds. So the Super Bowl odds right now going into draft day for the Browns, 16-1 right now to win the Super Bowl. So right now, 16-1, they're kind of in that 8th spot right now, as far as if you were to rank the teams based on the odds, you would have the Browns at 16. The Steelers come into the night at 33-1. And I remember during On the Money last year, throughout the year, I kept saying, let's look for the value. Let's look for the value. The Steelers were a team that people loved early. Look, they went on a huge run to start the year. They were undefeated for a long time, kind of had an easy schedule. It's interesting now, they struggled to the end of the year last year. They're going to be 33-1 going into next season. And how about the Bengals? How about the lottery ticket? You're saying maybe Burrow and Chase, 80-1 going into next year for the Bengals, which to me, not high enough. I would need it probably around 250-1.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's going to be a tough division. With Ben writing his final chapter, you don't know what's going to happen there. The Ravens are always going to be very competitive. The Browns are right there. Let me ask you this. We don't know who the Browns are going to take at 26. We assume defense. Is there any value there on position if they just take an edge rusher, a linebacker, or a receiver? How does that come out?
Well, so there's an interesting prop bet where will the Browns' first round pick be an offensive player or a defensive player? And I think we've seen throughout most of the mock drafts, it's a high likelihood that first round pick is going to be a defensive player. The odds actually show that too. The odds are actually defense minus 375 and offense 240. And the funny thing, Anthony, is if you flip it and the Steelers, if you look at what the Steelers are likely to do with their first round pick, and they're picking number 24, so just before the Browns, they're looking at most likely taking an offensive player because the odds are minus 350 that they take an offensive player or plus 220 on the defense. I'm thinking if I had to bet right now, I think the Steelers might go running back in the first round. And I think there's some good value on the fact that the Steelers would take an offensive player. And look, I think it's a lock the Browns take a defensive player.
Yeah, I do too. Unless one of those receivers falls and the Browns just fall in love with getting a speedy receiver there, it just has to be their guy. I agree with you. It's way too precise for me to go that they'll take a receiver at pick 26. So I'm with you. And I do think there's some value there. I would go with the running back or offensive with the Steelers there. It just seems like Najee Harris is their guy, unless somebody jumps above them. I mean, they could go into a corner situation, but I don't think so. I'm with you on both of those. So it's interesting that, these odds are all out there, and it makes you feel like somebody knows everything. But, you've tracked some of this. How much do the favorites really come through, do you think, on draft night with betting?
Yeah, last year, it's funny because last year, I'm a guy, and I know you're a guy, who we like to take the favorites, okay? Well, there's a reason they're a favorite. You can stack them up and parlay them, and we like that. Yeah. Well, to me on draft night, I think that you tend to take the favorites. It makes sense. But I got a funny prop for you, and I want you to tell me your opinion on this prop because, look, Trevor Lawrence is about to go number 1, and there's this great prop out there. It's who will and we'll know here in just a couple minutes. So if you're placing your soft earned dollars, Anthony, your great phrase, who will Trevor Lawrence hug first when he's the number 1 pick? Remember, he's not in Cleveland. Who will he hug first? Is it his wife at minus 250? Is it his mom at plus 180? Is there value on the dad at 250? The sibling, which I think is a crazy long shot at 850, or does he hug a friend at 14-1?
See, the inside information I need is the darn seating chart. Because I don't think if he's sitting next to his wife and he just got married, right? If he's sitting next to his wife, he's going to hug his wife first. It just because of proximity. I can't see him stepping over his wife to get to his mom or his dad. So you need to provide me with a seating chart, buddy boy, and then I will go. But I'll say this. He just got married. I think he's done that part. And I think on draft night, you hug the people that got you there. And I think mom and dad, there's some good value there. And I think you can never go wrong with mom at plus 180. So let's put some value there.
Absolutely. Almost 2-1 that he hugs mom. I know he just got married, but I'm taking mom at 2-1. I don't think there's any chance dad at plus 250. I don't think sibling. I don't think friend. I think he's hugging the mom at 2-1. That's the value.
I love it. We're lockstep, baby. Oh, when in doubt, go with mom, unless she's somehow on the other side of the table, and then we go down, we're losers. So who knows? All right, Scotty, great stuff, man. Hope you cashed tonight, buddy.
That was fun.
All right, we'll bring in the guys from 10 TV, and certainly Dave Holmes has been toughing it for all of us. We're in, cozy virtual studios, and Dave's out on the move, man, out in the elements. We're inching closer, guys. Thanks for coming back in. And I know that you feel like we talked about the Justin Fields situation a lot at the top, but is there a surprise pick, Dave, in the top 10? Something we don't see coming? Not a trade, but maybe a guy that's picked in the top 10 that people aren't really talking about.
No, I don't know if I'm see a surprise necessarily, because I think the top 4 to 5 pretty much feels slotted in. So I think if there is a surprise, it's going to be a trade scenario there in that 6 to 10 range. So I don't see anything jumping out at me as far as something that's going to make us really stunned. I mean, I just don't see it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that Atlanta is interesting, but the Kyle Pitts situation, Dom, is so intriguing. It's almost like we've never seen a guy like this before, a tight end and a wide receiver and a tight end body. Certainly a guy that can be a matchup nightmare at his size and speed. Matt Ryan is locked up for a few years now with Atlanta. There's talk about Julio Jones being traded, but is Atlanta as close to a lock with Kyle Pitts as I think it is?
I don't know. You know what? If we knew for sure, you, me, and Scotty Vegas would be living in Vegas, and we'd be rich. I don't know what any of these clubs are going to do, and I love all the people that think they do. I think the only thing we know for sure is that Urban's going to take Trevor Lawrence with the first pick. I do want to say one thing though about the Browns, and I am a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I wanted to draft him when they draft him. I know a lot of Ohio State fans get mad at me because he staked the flag when he came into the horseshoe. But let me say something, AR. I believe when he was drafted, I said it, that within 5 years, he will take the Browns to a Super Bowl. He's getting ready to go to his 4th year. They were much improved a year ago. I think they finally have coaching stability in Cleveland. I think he has some great weapons on offense. I think their defense has gotten better. And I think this team will contend this year. And so I said within 5 years, this year and next year, if they're going to hold me to my truth, they got to make it. But I'm telling you, I love that kid. He's finally getting coached up. I mean, it was a circus up there for the first couple of years he was there. But now there's stability there. And I like the Browns to make some noise this year.
All right, so I'll put it to both of you, and we'll start with you, Dom. If you own the Browns, would you give Baker Mayfield a long-term extension now and not let this year play out, and then you'll have the 5th-year option, and you could do it before then if you wanted to, but will you give him the $35 million plus long-term today?
Well, let me just say this. From what we see on the outside looking in, the answer would be yes. There's only one guy that knows that, and that's Stefanski. He deals with him on a daily basis. And from what I'm hearing from Stefanski, what we hear at least publicly is that he likes this guy. And I don't know. The kid's a proven winner. All he's done is win everywhere he's gone. And I don't know. I think he's the deal. I think I would give him the money if I owned that team.
Dave, what do you think? I'm in the way. I think it can be a win-win, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. I think Baker can bet on himself a little bit here. I don't think the Browns are going to, get him for, $30 million a year. I think he's going to want more than that. I think I'd be willing to pay him once I see it again. So I have no problem with trying to get a discount now that I don't think he'd be giving them anyway. Are you kind of in a wait and see? We've seen the bounce back. this is the team that is supposed to really do some damage. Are you good with letting this kind of play out and not giving him the extension before the season?
Yep, I'm with you. I don't want to give it to him yet. I want to see him in year 2 of an offense because we haven't seen that yet. I want to see him run the same offense twice. He was awesome down the stretch. The last 8 games, no doubt. Once again, that was without Odell Beckham. And it's comical to say the Browns are better without Odell Beckham. I don't care what the splits say. You're not better without a player of his caliber, but there's still something weird about why Baker Mayfield doesn't play his best football with Odell Beckham. So I want to see him with Odell. I want to see him in year 2 with Kevin Stefanski. I'm with you. If you want to dangle 6 years, 150 in front of him, 25 a year, knock yourself out. He's not going to sign it. He's not going to take it because he's going to want 30 plus because that's going to be the going rate, especially with the cap going up. So I'm with you. I want to see him prove it one more time. I think it's smart to just pick up the option and let's let him see. Let's see one more go around. And if they go 11-5 again and he only throws 7 to 10 picks, then yeah, give him what he wants.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of it is the team is set up for us for them to succeed. And if they succeed, he'll be a big part of it. If somehow this thing crashes when the big expectations are there, then you're getting some of your answer on whether he is a little bit of a system guy or a guy that can just caretake a team. Not like Dom said, I think you can win big games with him, certainly. Marrying him long-term, I think there's time for that. And so hopefully they'll have a good season and we'll meet expectations.
AR, here's the thing that I hate, though, and I hear this all the time from fans. They say he's just a Johnny Manziel on steroids. Don't insult. That kid is nothing like Johnny Manziel. Give me a break. Johnny Manziel was a train wreck.
I didn't mute you. I think Johnny Manziel may have muted you. Yeah, I think Johnny Manziel must have come in and muted you. I didn't do it. Johnny had heard enough. As Dom adjusts, Dave, give us your final situation here on how you think this will go. Maybe kind of give me a prediction on maybe the top 5 picks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to come out of the gate, obviously, with Lawrence. I think it's going to play as chalk with Zach Wilson, number 2. I think the Niners, like we've talked about, I think they go Mac at 3 because they've always been very transparent. I don't think that's the right pick. I think that's what they'll do. I think Pitts goes 4. You pair him with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. My goodness, Matt Ryan better have a late career resurgence with that. And I think you go Jamar Chase, number 5.
Yeah. Dom, you agree with that, those top 5?
They're as good as any. I don't know. Who knows for sure? I think Justin Fields should be the 3rd player taken. I'd love to see the 49ers take him. But I don't know. And wouldn't it be funny if Urban didn't take Trevor Lawrence? I mean, it's all you've heard. It's a done deal. He's going to.
Now you mute him, Anthony. Now you mute him. This is the time to mute him.
And I will say this.
Hands free.
Mark this down. Urban Meyer will win in the National Football League. He will win.
And maybe the better question, Dom, is will he be winning with Tim Tebow as his tight end or one of them?
I don't think so, but he will win. He will. And mark this down.
All right.
Urban will take at least one Buckeye in this draft.
Tim Tebow hasn't played an actual game since 2012. This is so absurd. Baseball. Dom, if he brings in Tim Tebow, then I'm sorry. That is a bad look for Urban. It looks like nepotism. Please do not make that. Those are the kind of moves that can get you out of the NFL very quickly.
This dude, he's a real-life Brad Wesley, as Bo Bishop would say.
Which one, Urban Meyer or Tim Tebow? Who's Brad Wesley in that situation?
Urban.
Oh, okay. All right.
Come on, Urban runs the show. Come on.
Listen, he's right. He's got his hands on the wheel now. Listen, I don't know what this is about. If Tebow wanted to try out and he gave him a courtesy tryout at the tight end position at 33, 34 years old, I mean, my feeling is somehow he wants him in his locker room. Well, make him a locker room attendant. I don't know. I mean, somehow get him in there, but not with a uniform. But who knows? We'll see how that plays out.
Here's the one thing I want to say about Urban.
Yeah.
And you know him, and I know him. I mean, this dude was probably next. He and Woody Hayes were the 2 most intense people I've ever met. and despised losing. And I'll tell you a funny story. I saw him about a month and a half ago, and I said to Coach, I said, "Hey, I just want to make sure you do realize the winningest guy in the National Football League has won like 54% of his games or whatever." And I said, I mean, and that's considered he's the best. Talking about Belichick. And he said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "Are you going to be able to handle?" I said, "You lose one game a year and you're nuts." And he said, "I'm going to have to train myself to lose." So we'll see. I think he will win in the NFL, but it's a different game. You know, 8-8, they'll build a statue for him down there this year.
Well, if you start Tim Tebow at tight end, you're training yourself to lose. That would be a quick way to get it done.
Yeah.
Man, why do you hate Tebow so bad? He was a great football player, too.
He had his chance to play tight end a decade ago, and he didn't want it. He ain't playing it in 2021.
We ain't playing quarterback anymore.
No. He's been there, done that, guys. That's pretty solid stuff. Hey, what did you think of what did you think, final minute here, what did you think of Justin Fields holding a second pro day, and did that accomplish anything, Dave, in your mind?
I don't think it does. I mean, I think he was impressive enough in pro day one. I mean, if you're going to run a 4.4 and throw the things that we saw him do, I know he had the second one. Maybe that convinced someone, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think he showed everyone enough on pro day one. If you weren't buying in on that in 2 years of film, I don't think you buy in suddenly.
I don't think he was happy with how he ran the first day, but I mean, my gosh, I mean, all this stuff, these analytics and these stuff these guys do, AR, drive me crazy. Just watch the guy play football. I mean, I remember one time Pete Rose told me, he said, you know, with the analytics they use in baseball today, no one would draft me. I mean, but all the guy did was hit the baseball every time he went to the plate. I mean, that guy, Justin Fields, is a player. He could play the game of football. I mean, you know, Ohio State is not a bad football program last time I checked, and he was pretty dadgum elite there.
No question. But you know the old phrase, you got to kick the tires, man. The car may look good and going around the track. They like to lift up the hood, Dommy. They like to lift up the hood, baby. And they're paid a lot of money to do that. Enjoy the draft, guys. Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Now we move over for the important guys, the real team, Skip Mossick and the Ohio State football flagship radio team. I see the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, and, of course, Matt Andrews on the sidelines. Skip, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, Anthony, great job so far. Go take a quick breather.
Gotta eat.
You can talk for a long time. We know that, but I tell you what, we'll bring you back. We'll steer the boat for a couple of minutes there for you, Rothman. Okay, all good. So, boys, how are we?
All good. How you doing there?
How you doing, leader?
Doing great. Lachey, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you see me?
We can see your name, so your video is not working properly. So you're
right.
Functioning like a lineman.
Yeah, I'll get it to work. Let's go ahead.
There you go.
There we go. Hey, all good stuff. Haven't seen you boys in days, so it's great to see you. And you know, Jimmy, you and I were talking earlier, but to take us back in the time machine, man. 1985 is things have changed a lot in regards to how the draft works, how it operates, and everything. And as far as what you were going through, because obviously you were a first rounder and you knew you were going to be taken relatively soon. What was that process like for you back in the day?
Not actually, Skip. I didn't know if I was going to be taken early, and really until maybe about, I don't know, midnight, maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I had a West Coast agent, Lee Steinberg, and I got a call about 11 o'clock that night, kind of an update, Eastern time, 8 o'clock out there in the West Coast. He says, hey, we talked about maybe being a late, early second round, but it's starting to look like maybe a first round prospect. And I'm like, well, that's good news before you go to bed on draft night. That's good news. And all of a sudden I get another call about, 1:30 o'clock, in the morning. And hey, it's some other teams are making some moves. It looks like some linemen are going to get picked. And I said, wow, that's good news. So I get a final call about 3, and he goes, hey, I think the Raiders are really interested in you, and they got the 9th pick in the first round. I'm like, I was ecstatic, Get up that morning. I think at that time it might have been an early afternoon, a 1 o'clock draft on a Thursday afternoon, something like that. ESPN certainly was telecasting at that time. But I 5 linemen went before me, or 4 linemen went before me, and I ended up going the 12th pick overall. So you never know what's going to happen on draft day. Bill Farley got picked by the Falcons. Lomas Brown went to the Lions. Kenny Ruckers went to the Green Bay Packers. Kevin Allen, who played at Indiana, went to Philadelphia, and myself going to the San Diego Chargers at the 12th pick. So rarely do you see 5 offensive linemen taken that high in a draft, and 2 of us went on to have Pro Bowl careers. So it was a lot of fun to kind of reminisce about that. But no, it was you don't know what's going to happen. And Skip, what happens after that, guys, is that I was on the plane literally 4 hours later, flying to San Diego to get ready for a press conference. I mean, you become a pro football player. It seems like once you take that phone call, answer it, you're like, okay, we got a ticket waiting for you at the airport. Go to the airport. There's a ticket waiting for me. Get on the plane, fly out there, have a press conference. And at that time, they said pack for 2 weeks. We got mini camp, and I did. I packed for 2 weeks and still graduated on time.
Were you here in town, Jim, or did you go home with your folks?
Right in Columbus, right over there off of right off of Olentangy Village, a little bit in that area. Had an apartment over there. My parents came in. I think Tim May was reporting at that time. He might have stopped by. Dom, he might have been by doing a story with WBNS TV at that time. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Just sitting in my apartment, and boom, you get drafted. You get the phone call. Actually, I got a call from Philadelphia at the 9th pick overall, but they ended up taking Kevin Allen from Indiana, and I went a couple picks later. So it worked out great. I mean, Philadelphia is a great city. Don't kid yourself. But playing in San Diego your first 3 years, that's a great place to learn how to become a pro.
Not bad. And, Keels, I mean, doing this for a long time. 1980 was the first year that the draft was televised. And, I don't know about you, we didn't have cable in our house in 1980. It was like, ESPN took it on. Obviously, they were just starting up. But just a little bit as far as, when, not just when you were a kid growing up, but just how much the draft is just the coverage of the draft has changed over the years.
Well, even, Skip, when it started being televised, it was still done in the morning. So when I was working in Cincinnati and then later in Detroit, you ended up going either to the Bengals or the Lions. You went to their team facilities where they had something set up, and then someone would come out and make the announcement. So the time of day has changed. When you would find out who these picks were, and the rapidity in which the later rounds came has changed an awful lot. Being able to get the information, but really you didn't get in the 70s and 80s, you didn't get all of the information in advance of the draft that you get now. The combine was something that really, it didn't exist in that manner, and it wasn't publicized all that much. So it's changed an awful lot now, just like a lot of sports events where it's shoved into prime time.
I tell you what, and Maddie, I mean, you've worked baseball a number of years. I mean, even before you came back to town, you're calling baseball games during when the draft is going on, and just a little bit as far as what you're calling out on the field in regards to trying to keep everybody up to date as far as what's going on with that draft.
Well, that's exactly right. And for many years, we were calling baseball games during the spring game. And, I'd have the TV monitor on watching that and then updating. And obviously, when I worked in Louisville, the folks there wanted to hear about their players. And I was interested to find out how the Buckeyes were doing. But then even furthermore, when you get into June and the first year baseball amateur draft, a lot of those guys are still in school, still playing in the regionals, and you're tracking all of this stuff. But the draft it's really something that's, we've heard major talking points consistently now for the last seemingly 2 months or longer. And it's all you saw on TV, even today and leading up, and the mock drafts. And everybody's got their own mock draft, and the fans love it. And the ratings, I'm sure, are huge. But here we are 22 minutes into the TV telecast, and the Jaguars are still on the clock. So go figure, right?
You really think he's just playing a game here?
Of course he is.
He's going to take.
Of course he is.
Consulting with his wife as to who he should pick.
You know darn well who he's going to take. So it's all there. Again, it used to be just on the weekends. And, as you mentioned, Maddie, I mean, I remember many a spring game when the draft is going on. I'm getting, everything was very important, but I remember like old bosses of mine, like screaming at us to get off the air so we can get draft coverage on them. I'm like, boss, we're updating picks as they come in. You're not paying attention, but that just goes to show how popular this has come over the years.
Well, the NFL doesn't have an off season anymore because you'll roll right from the draft now into the mini camps. the whole free agent business, and then eventually training camp. And because of everything that's happened in the past year with the pandemic, there's such a starvation for sports information. Even though we're getting closer to reality or closer to normalcy, people still just can't get enough of what's going on with their favorite sports, and the draft being part of it.
Jim, how closely do the NFL guys pay attention to who their team is drafting? Because you want them to get the best players, but at the same time, these are guys that will be coming after your job, possibly.
You did really the first couple of years. It was funny. I used to always, get a call from my dad. Hey, they drafted another offensive lineman. Is he going to take your job? I'm like, Dad, I think I'll be all right. I'll be all right. But my first year with San Diego, I was the first round pick. The next year, they picked James Fitzpatrick out of USC, another first round. And you think, your job is never safe, and that's kind of what it's like in the NFL. I think you do follow it. You do, I don't think I sat in front of the TV and watched all 7 rounds or 12 rounds at that time ever, but I would follow trends or something like that, or offensive linemen. I certainly guys from Ohio State through the years when I was a player, but yeah, you kind of want to figure out what you're going. We drafted Desmond Howard the year after we won the Super Bowl, and I'm thinking, okay, this guy can help us and add us, and it just really never worked out for us. So you feel like you're going to get a big guy or a great guy, and sometimes they just don't work out in the circumstance. Now, Desmond went on to Green Bay and ended up being the MVP of the Super Bowl with his kick return ability. So you just never know. Heath Schuler, another first rounder we got from Tennessee with the Washington Redskins, really thought he was going to be a guy that had all the athletic ability to work out. It just didn't work out. So it's hit or miss. It's, one guy, it's like, some guy might think some girl's ugly, but another guy thinks she's beautiful. It's whatever your eyes think, whatever you see as a general manager, as a coach. And then obviously guys, some guys, play themselves out of the league, so to speak. But, I think certainly we're excited for Ohio State guys. It looks like they're getting ready to make the first pick now.
And we'd be stunned who it's not. And he mentioned as far as Fitz and, Paul, you can speak at length. Maddie, I know you can too. And Jim, we've seen, just bad luck in the draft when it comes to Ohio's teams, that's being the Bengals and the Browns over the years. Just what you thought were can't miss guys, with the Bengals, it's just, again, just bad luck. Kajana Carter, I thought was absolutely that no way that kid could not make it. And then obviously just gets hurt in the preseason and was never, ever the same.
No, he wasn't. He had one healthy season. It was the year I did the Bengals on the radio in '96. He was healthy all year, but then he had to share the time with Garrison Hurst. You think about Greg Cook being the first round draft pick out of the University of Cincinnati, then suffers a shoulder injury that by now, it would sideline him for part of a year, but basically ended his career. Freddie Childress, a lineman they brought in, and they had to bring a scale from Toledo Trucking to be able to weigh him because he was so big, and he didn't even get through training camp that year. Achilles Smith, just some of the bad luck that I have. David Klingler, who had an outstanding senior season at the University of Houston. Yeah. And that's why with everything that's happened with the Bengals and with what happened with Joe Burrow this past year, there's so much angst about if they do not take an offensive lineman. Certainly everybody understands the threat that Jamar Chase is, but goodness gracious, it would really turn a lot of heads if they don't take Sewell or Slater, whoever's available to them.
And Matt, the Browns for years, just absolutely horrendous luck as far as for a lot of years, a little bit more success of recent years, but for a lot of years, it's really, really tough luck.
Yeah, they've had some bad luck too. Another name I'd add to that Bengals list, they mentioned it today on the television broadcast, David Pollock. It's been 15 years since he was drafted. 15 years. But to your point about the Browns, Skip, here they are hosting the draft, and they're not going to pick till well after young individuals' bedtimes. So, but good for them. And yeah, the trend hopefully is improving for them. But as the Jets go on the clock, it's been a struggle. I'm kind of with Paul as a Bengals fan. I'm hoping they take Penny Sewell at the tackle.
And Jim, obviously the big debate as far as Justin Fields, where he's going to go, wherever he goes, you got to think he's going to help that football team. But after Fields, who's next in your mind? You got to think probably Wyatt Davis, and then you go down the list. How many guys do you think as far as Buckeyes, you see names called this weekend?
Yeah, Wyatt Davis, certainly. If you think another offensive line, certainly Josh Myers' name's going to be in that mix. I don't know if that's a first day type guy, but certainly he's going to get drafted by the time this is all over with. people are talking about Pete Werner. He's a guy that really has excelled well in all the skills tests, all the different workouts. Somebody says that maybe he could be a late first rounder, early second rounder type. But certainly, Justin, we've seen what he's done in a limited amount of time. Certainly with the games played, especially with 2020 because of COVID-19. But he was fantastic, and he's a guy that certainly showed a lot of toughness. So I would think as a player, if you're getting Justin Fields on your team, that, hey, you'd be happy to have him. He's a hard worker. He seems to has done positive things wherever he's been. We've heard Ryan Day talk about him earlier today and then again tonight on some different things. So he's had a lot of positive things. We've seen him with our own eyes. Certainly he's thrown into some talented receivers, and he's had some time most of the time. That Indiana game, that's always going to haunt him a little bit in the interceptions against Northwestern. But overall, are you kidding me? His performances and what he did at Ohio State as a quarterback, it's tough to put many guys above him, so to speak.
How about real quick, Keels and Andrews, as far as guys maybe down what they have down the list as far as the Ohio State guys that you think could not only make a team, but be competitive and be successful in the National Football League. I mean, one name for me, I'll throw this out there and start and let you guys go, is I can definitely see Jonathan Cooper having a career in the NFL.
Yeah, if he gets with the right fit, I agree with you. And I think Baron Browning's another guy because of his ability to rush off the edge. But another one, Drew Chrisman. He's a guy that I think is going to find a place for somebody that needs a punter, and he's a guy that could have a long career kicking the football.
Chrisman was going to be my call, Paul. I agree with you.
You guys always think.
How about Trey Sherman, though, as well? Now, let's not forget him at the end there. And, hey, perhaps he'll have a chance to help a ball club, perhaps even be a third down back in the NFL.
Anybody else, Lachey, as far as you think that could be successful as far as it's on this Ohio State list?
Well, you talked, the linebackers, Baron Browning, Tough Borland. I mean, kid started a lot of games as three-time captain. Certainly, he's not a much more than a 4.8 type guy, but that, and you find roles for him. We'll see how that works out. But, we've had a lot of talented guys, and there'll be some guys that, maybe that you didn't think that maybe were nicked up a little bit throughout their high school or college career at Ohio State that might get an opportunity down the road. But just think guys like, from the state of Ohio, Julian Edelman. I mean, he was a quarterback. Look what type of career he ended up having in the NFL. So there could be some position changes for guys that you don't know. And, they end up might excelling down the road. But certainly there's a lot of talented players at Ohio State that'll have opportunities to play at the next level. We know that. But Jonathan Cooper, you agree? He's a guy that he's going to find a role. Maybe it's going to be a linebacker in a 3-4 type of team, where he can come off the edge. But, it's NFL, man. I'll tell you what, it stands for not for long. Not the National Football League, not for long. So if you get a job, enjoy it, play as hard as you can, and see if you can make it last as long as you can.
Jets about to take the pick. As mentioned, Lawrence was taken real quick. Before we give it back to Anthony, is he going to be throwing passes to Tim Tebow?
No. Tebow will be helping him try to sell tickets.
Tickets? Yeah, a lot. A lot of tickets.
Yeah.
No.
Rockman, back to you. Yeah. Hey, Bo, what's happening?
Good job, boys.
Thank you.
Maybe he'll be throwing passes in their neighborhood because apparently it just came out that Urban bought a house on Tebow's street. So they can throw the ball around the neighborhood together. A little street football. Thanks, guys. Always good to see you. Great job tonight. Great job. Spring game stuff. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. No problem, Anthony. See you.
Thanks, guys. All right. Been looking forward to this all night. Want to bring in my former co-host, Cleveland Browns Daily. He does everything. He's got his finger on the pulse of every situation. He's Bo Bishop, B Square in the house on the 97.1 The Fan, 10 TV, virtual NFL draft, brought to you by Pepsi Zero, zero sugar, done right. Good to see you, my man.
You too, my brother. And look at how Natalie you are attired tonight. That is a beautiful. I went casual. I'm trying to sell some T-shirts here at the fan shop. Doing the best I can.
And we appreciate that, my friend. We appreciate it. All right. So unbelievable. We got to wait for the Cleveland Browns. We haven't done this in a lot of years, waiting for the Brownies.
Right.
Let's just make sure that the Jets do take Zach Wilson, which they did. All right. So 2 favorites coming through. No problem there. All right. So let's talk about the Browns real fast. You're in there, Cleveland Browns Daily. Any drama expected tonight, buddy? They sit tight at 26 is the feeling?
I think the word of the day for the Browns is versatile. And I think that's what Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, when they come on, that was really their MO from Jump Street. And I think it started last year offensively in the free agency where they went out and got Austin Hooper and said, we want to play 2 and 3 tight ends. We want to be able to do a lot of things. We want to have a lot of versatility. We love having the 2 backs. This year, they did the same thing with the defense, AR, when you think about it. You had John Johnson. I think he's a top 5 safety in all of the NFL. You add him to Grant Delpit coming back healthy, Ronnie Harrison. Buddy, they're going to play a lot of 3 safety looks. Joe Woods, their defensive coordinator, when he was the defensive coordinator in Denver, 470 snaps in nickel and dime. Last year in Cleveland, in dime, they were just 17. So he didn't get to play the way he wanted to play. So they addressed those things in free agency. And the crazy thing about them, and this is just something that's hard for Browns fans to wrap their heads around. The draft is not the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. The guy they pick at 26, very likely will not start. Will not start. That's a remarkable thing for this organization where this has been their Super Bowl for 20 years and it's not anymore. So what I think they will do tonight, I think there's 3 positions to look at. I think the number 1 priority would be corner, but I think they're obviously aware that the elite corners probably won't be there at 26. I think they'd go Greg Newsome if he was there. I think they'd like him. They've done a lot of work on Caleb Farley, a lot of work, but the medical on him is tough. So then you start saying, all right, what else could it be? Because they won't reach, AR. They will not reach. Andrew Berry will be disciplined. He will stay with his board. He will not force a pick. I think wide receiver at 26 is real. I think that's a real possibility. The other position I think that possibly could be, but to a lesser extent, is defensive end if the right guy got there. So if they don't have somebody in those 3 spots, though, buddy, they're looking for 2 words, elite traits. So that could be J.O.K. out of Notre Dame. That could be Zaven Collins, somebody who just maybe is not a position that they would even put a first-round priority on, but is just such a freak athlete that they have to take him and put him on the field. I think that'll be their mentality tonight.
Let me ask you this then. They obviously signed Clowney. They have Tack McKinley. It doesn't preclude them from getting an edge rusher if one is there. Yeah. I don't know if the kid from Michigan, Kwity Paye, is going to fall that far, and I'm not even sure what they think of him. But I'm with you on receiver. I just feel like there's so much depth at receiver, although there could be a really good one there. Bateman's really good. I don't think Moore would be there. So if the edge rusher is there at 26, do they try to find a future pairing for Myles Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, I think they like Tack McKinley more than some people realize. I do think that would be possible. I think Jalen Phillips would be an interesting one for them at 26. I think the one thing you have to remember with them, and if you look at what they do in free agency, and especially last year in the draft, they are looking for elite physical capabilities. And that seemed, oh yeah, Bo, everybody is. But if you pay attention to it, they look for in the lineage. They want, are you a 5-star? They're interested in that. If you think about Mac Wilson, Jacob Phillips, late round, Donovan Peoples-Jones, late round guys, they're looking for guys who have elite physical traits that even if they didn't maybe have the careers, those are the type of guys they want. They want guys who have things that aren't coachable, and they'll coach them up. So from the defensive end perspective, I got to be honest with you. I think that's their 3rd priority. I really do. I think the number 1 priority is that corner, but I think they're realistic that the ones that they want probably aren't there. And it's possible that there's 5 gone by the time they pick. I'm telling you, pal, watch out for wide receiver at 26. I think it's really in play. Other couple of things they could do. They could trade out of this draft in the 1st round because they have 9 picks. 9 players aren't making that roster. So they could trade out of 1 and pick up a pick next year in 2022, where most people think it'll be a better draft. And the other thing that they could do is they could trade up. So they could go up to 20, 21 for a corner. They won't mortgage the future, but if the price is a pick swap in the 2nd and a 3rd, because they have 2 thirds, I could see them going into the early 20s to make that deal.
I agree with you, and I think there's certainly their medical concerns with Farley, but I think they've been tamped down a little bit here. Yeah. Greedy Williams, what's their confidence in his rebound ability from that nerve damage in that shoulder?
It's tricky. I mean, they're confident. I mean, they say he looks great. We talked to him a couple of weeks ago. He says he's ready to go. It's a nerve, though. and he missed time as a rookie too. So that's why I think they're ideally they're getting an outside corner. And that would, I think, be their number one priority. But I also don't think they'll force it. It's a remarkable spot they're in. And I acknowledge that a lot of it is predicated on Greedy Williams, Grant Delpit coming back healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, they really have no needs in that sense. So they're in a great spot. Greedy's health will be a big part of that. Grant Delpit coming off an Achilles will be a big part of it. But they're in a great spot to be very versatile with this pick at 26. Move up, move down, and go in a bunch of different directions on the roster.
I asked this to a couple guys earlier, and you'd have a good take on this. I think we both realize that Baker Mayfield is married to the best situation he can be with Stefanski. We've already seen it in action. He bounced back tremendously. And they don't really have to offer him an extension now. And I don't even know if he'd take the one that they would offer. And I thought he had a great answer the other day, publicly at least. But do you think that it's a win-win? Like Baker gets bet on himself. Like if he has the year everybody thinks he's going to have, then they're going to be willing to pay him.
Oh yeah,
and there'll be a time for that. I don't think there's any insult into not extending him now. Do you?
No, you nailed it. There's not at all. Both sides are more than comfortable with the option. You got to remember, if you're Baker Mayfield, you don't want an extension now anyway. You're going to bet on yourself. He's bet on himself his whole life.
Yeah, with this team especially.
Of course, yeah. This team's loaded. You're going to let Lamar Jackson set the market. Let Josh Allen set the market. More importantly, let the new salary cap numbers start to trickle in. And then let's talk about an extension and see what that's all about. So, no, I think it's a win-win. I think they're on the same page across the board between him and management.
San Francisco's pick is in. We don't know it yet. They've always been picking the guy that everyone thinks they're linked to. I mentioned it today on my show. They had to get rid of DeForest Buckner. They were linked to Javon Kinlaw. They drafted him. They were linked to Bosa. Of course, they drafted him. They wanted to replace Joe Staley. They took Mike McGlinchey because everybody said they should. They drafted Solomon Thomas because he took a class at Stanford with John Lynch. It seems like history tells us whoever they're linked to, they're taking. Are you buying that it's Mac Jones here in the next few seconds?
I don't even want to believe it. I just want Justin here so badly because I think it would be the great spot for him in that offense with Kyle Shanahan. I mean, it's just where I want him to be, and I think it's where he deserves to be. It's what's happened to him is just feels almost borderline criminal to me. This has been a bit of a mess for them, though, and then especially with Aaron Rodgers stuff today. So this has been a pretty big mess for them, and they're picking right now. I think you're a little ahead of me in terms of what they're going to do here at number 3. My hunch is Mac Jones, though.
Trey Lance.
Okay.
He went with that kind of that middle ground of the high ceiling, really tantalizing quarterback. Didn't play a lot of games. Experience isn't there. But my goodness, does this mean now, and I do believe this now, I'm going to buy that he isn't going to trade Garoppolo.
No. And you hit
it. Keep him.
I think the phrase you used there, that I think what happened here today, and sort of pay attention to the scores, what happened here today with Lance has a little bit to do with, hey, we can't all agree. Let's meet in the middle. Because from all accounts, Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, by all accounts.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, at the top of that organization, ownership, general manager, scouting department, and fan base. Don't discount that. And by the way, Kyle Shanahan's shine is not as bright as it once was. You mentioned Solomon Thomas. That was his first draft. It's not just the Bears who missed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. He gave Garoppolo all that money, and now they want to trade him out. He can't win with him. He only has the one winning season, AR. He's only got the one winning season. They went all the way, and I love him from an offensive standpoint. But this does feel like, let's meet in the middle on this. I like this more than Mac Jones, though. No question. You don't move up to 3 to not take a guy who could get a different element. But to think that this kid's better than Fields is crazy to me.
Boy, from a competition standpoint, you just can't get past it that you would take that chance of a guy that only had, 17 games starting, only 300 total passes in his career. But you can see the traits that they like. And it tells me, and I agree with you on that, he's not really this quarterback guru. He's a great play caller. He's got great history there. I think the Garoppolo injury, the durability is concerning.
Sure.
I don't know if he wants to ship Garoppolo because he doesn't think he's very good. I just don't know if they trust his future. And so maybe Lance now has the red shirt year behind Jimmy G.
I can't imagine a scenario where a kid has thrown that few passes in his life would be given the keys to a team that I think is pretty well loaded. So,
well, you can't. It's a team though that can, as they say, absorb inexperience. Like it's a team that that he could learn on the fly a little bit and get away with it. But if your ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl with a rookie QB out of North Dakota State that's played 17 games, yeah, I don't see it. So I think if you got a redshirt year, they drafted their future at quarterback. If he can turn Jimmy Garoppolo into what he thought he could, they probably would have traded him before now if he could have gotten a one. That was too rich.
Well, don't you think too, what happened today with the Rodgers stuff going public, that went public, I think, my opinion is that went public because San Francisco said, hey, we're not going to die on this vine alone. This wasn't our idea, right? I think that's why that went out today and went nuts, because that wasn't the play-by-play voice of the Vikings who broke that story? Isn't that the guy who originated?
Paul Allen? I didn't know that he broke that.
Paul Allen broke it, and then everybody ran with it. And I think the 49ers like, hey, we don't want it to look like we're incompetent. We know who we're picking. And so then they put it out that, hey, this isn't just us. This is Rodgers wants out.
Yeah. The narrative in the beginning was that they offered the world for Rodgers, which, I could understand that. I mean, they could get out of 3, trade a boatload for him, and then you'd have Rodgers for the next few years of his back end of his prime. But you're probably right. It's like, well, wait a minute. We didn't swing and miss on Rodgers. He wanted out, so we tested the waters, and it didn't. I'm with you on that. But now the question becomes, how far does Mac fall? Because now you have to believe that Fields is going ahead of Mac Jones.
I do. Yeah, I do too. I think this was a one team thing for Mac Jones, and it was San Francisco. And I would think Fields. I just don't understand. Again, I can't. It's hard for me to get past this. Right?
Yeah.
That this
and
Zach Wilson. By the way, there's been no dialogue questioning Zach Wilson as if he's unimpeachable as a prospect. I know you've had a bunch of scouts on your show. We've had a ton of scouts on our show. And the guys that you respect the most, the PFF guys, the guys who do this for a living, not one of them has said that Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in this class. I had a guy yesterday, I want to say it was Matt Waldman, who told me yesterday the difference between Lawrence and Fields is less than the difference between Fields and the rest of the quarterbacks.
Well, we got to see it on the field recently.
We watched it.
And we just watched it. But I'll tell you this, it is so. I mean, I know they all have flaws, and I get it. And so, the kid played at BYU. He didn't play against good competition, but he didn't have a lot around him, so he had to be the guy. And he's athletic. He can throw sidearm. He's got but Justin Fields can throw with 2 guys all over him. Like,
that's right.
I don't understand it because I thought the best proof is the competition, and Justin Fields had that to the nth degree. But man, dude, I'd have to think now he becomes. If he doesn't go to Atlanta, and I don't think he will, I don't think they want to bring in Justin Fields to be looking over Matt Ryan's shoulder. Like, it'd be different to look over Jimmy G's shoulder, but not Matt Ryan.
No, I think you get Pitts and you say, and I know, Blank loves Ryan. I think, and it might be fool's gold. Like, he may think that they're closer to that Super Bowl than they are, but you give him Pitts, and you have Ridley, and you have the 2 tight ends that they ran in Tennessee. So I think, to me, this seems like Pitts makes all the sense in the world here. And then you have to say, well, where is it for Justin? And the next pick you look at is number 7 with Detroit. Either a trade up, not necessarily them picking it, but somebody coming into 7 to scoop him up.
Yeah, I would think Carolina might dip into that. I know they have Darnold. They could get Darnold another weapon as we welcome in Tim Hall, because I see Buckeye Show Tim Hall right now. Good to see you, my man.
Anthony,
welcome
Bo.
back.
There goes Bo.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, Bo? How you doing, man? It's good to see the 2 of you together again. This is like old times.
Oh, it's been pure joy.
Pretty amazing. As we're on the line here, while everyone else has got multitasking as well. I agree with you guys. I think Atlanta's going to take Kyle Pitts here. There's just been too much of the he's a one-of-a-kind guy, a wide receiver and a tight end body and all that, all we've heard. But here comes Raj with the stride of the podium. Everybody in that pit. It's not a bad setup up there, Bo, in the C-Town.
Pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I was over at the Browns facility today, and it just rained all day. I mean, it just rained all day. Just bad luck. I mean, we had probably the best, you guys know, we've had the best March maybe ever from a weather standpoint. Most of April's been pretty good. This week's been really good. There it is, Pitt. So, so that's that, it's just bad luck. So there's not much you can do about it.
No, it looks great on TV though. And it's great for the city. And I'm glad, listen, people are there. It's not a virtual draft. We're making steps in the right direction. And
that's right.
And it's good to be there. All right, buddy. Well done. We'll cut you loose. We know you'll be on the air tomorrow covering it all, man. Great insight as always. Good to see you. Best of the family.
You guys too. All the best, boys.
Thanks. That's Bo Bishop, Cleveland Browns Daily, of course on the Fan, host of Bishop and Laurinaitis.